What is going on, everybody, man? How you guys all doing? I hope all is well. In today's video, man, I got a banger for you guys. We're going to be talking about the best prospects in the UFC right now, currently in 2023, right? There are a lot of great fighters, a lot of great prospects outside the rankings, but guys, in each division, I'm going to talk about the best prospects, the guys who I think will, eventually crack the top 15 and be a future champion potentially. So guys, before we get into this video, I just want to say there's been a lot of tea and a lot of, just craziness with Ian Gary and the MMA Guru, all that beef, and I made a video on Ian Gary recently, so if you guys would like to go check it out, feel free to, man. I put a lot of effort into it. But guys, we're going to start off in the heavyweight division, you know what I'm saying? We're going to start off in the heavyweight division. I always start from the lightest division all the way to the heavy. But we're going to bring in the big boys real quick, and we're going to starting off in the heavyweight division, guys. As you can see, we got three big boys on the screen, and we're going to go on the very left. We're going to start off with Mick Parkin. Now, Mick Parkin is a training partner at Aspinall. Mick Parkin, he's kind of fast at heavyweight. He's got decent speed. He's a boxer. He's got good hands. He's just another pig at heavyweight. I'm not going to lie, bro. There's not much to say about Mick Parkin. He's undefeated, and he's decent, you know what I mean? He might be ranked one day, but that's about it. Now, we're going to talk about Muhammad the Goat Usman. Guys, like his brother Kamaru Usman, both these guys are absolutely full of steroids. But Muhammad Usman's decent at heavyweight. He's undefeated. He's a wrestling machine, you know what I mean? He has the ability to get the fight to the ground, and his striking is improving. So 2024 future title run for Muhammad Usman, I can just see it happening. There's not much to talk about with heavyweight, prospects, because, watching an unranked heavyweight fight is kind of like watching a women's fight, but it is what it is, man. Muhammad Usman, future title challenger, that's just how it is. And the last prospect at heavyweight, guys, his name is Carl Williams. Now, this guy has the potential to be a top 5 heavyweight, but I mean, on a serious note, this guy does have really good wrestling. He's one of those guys where he just really charges at you with no offense, no defense, just kind of spazzes at you and tries to run at you. And if he's able to, clinch with you, he's going to be able to take you down. He's pretty good at wrestling. Really boring fighter, probably more boring than Muhammad Usman, which is crazy, just really hard thing to do. But yeah, I think this guy has the cure for insomnia. I really do, you know what I mean? People say it's Belal Muhammad. Guys, watch a Carl Williams fight and then you'll understand. But he deserves to be on this list. Decent enough wrestler, so you're going on the list, buddy. But we move on to the light heavyweight division. Carlos Ulberg. Now, guys, Carlos Ulberg trains out of CKB in New Zealand with Dan Hooker and Israel Adesanya. He's a kickboxing phenom. This guy has all first-round finishes in the UFC. Only has one loss to Kennedy and Zetsuku, where, I believe if those two were to rematch, I think Ulberg would spark and Zetsuku. But pretty much, let's be real, guys. If me, you, and Carlos Ulberg are going out to the club, he is going to be taking all the baddies off of us. And, it's going to make me really pissed off, but it is what it is. But yeah, this guy has crazy kickboxing ability, counter punches. Most of his wins are by first round knockout. So he has a future fight coming up with Dominic Reyes. We're going with a first round carry for Carlos Ulberg, guys. I honestly think Ulberg can be a top 5 light heavyweight. The last prospect at light heavyweight, guys, his name is Vitor Petrino. Now, guys, Petrino is undefeated at 10-0. This guy is a fucking source lab monster, right? He literally is made from the secret lab, the same lab with Jolton Almeida, all of steroids, but he is a pretty scary fighter. He's got really crazy knockout power. Yeah, Vitor Petrino is kind of a guy who relies on his athletic attributes, all the fucking steroids in his body. I'm not going to cap. He doesn't really have the brightest fight IQ. If you watch his fights, he's not really too smart. But like I said, he does have crazy knockout power, and that kind of just gives him a huge advantage. So who needs fight IQ when you've got fucking steroids in your body? But hey, we move on to the middleweight division, guys. We're going to start off with our guy, man. This is our guy, Roman Chadulov. Now, guys, if you know who I am the based owner of the Roman Chadulov gang. This is our guy right here. Pretty much, he had a rocky start to his UFC career. I think he went 0-2, and now he is 4-0. Not against the best competition, I'm going to be honest with you, but it does not fucking matter, dude. Roman Kopylov will be in the rankings very soon. This guy is crazy, dude. Has really good boxing, kind of like a Russian Soviet boxing type of style. Just relentless pressure, once he sees you're hurt, he wants to beat your ass. Really vicious kicks, really vicious body kicks, head kicks, all that good stuff. Yeah, guys, don't be surprised if we see our boy Roman Kopylov in the rankings by 2024. He is a problem to deal with. He recently called out Sean Strickland in his last fight. I don't think he's going to get that, but I would not be surprised if he's in the top 10 in the near future. We move on to the next guy in the middleweight division. We're going to be talking about Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Now, guys, Anthony Hernandez pulled one of the biggest upsets ever in the UFC when he submitted Rodolfo Vieira. Rodolfo Vieira is pretty much one of the best jiu-jitsu players of all time, one of the most recognized jiu-jitsu guys ever. Anthony Hernandez submitted him in MMA. That's all you need to know. Hernandez also has a win over Brendan Allen early in his career. And he also submitted John Yon Park, who's also on this list. Submitting John Yon Park is no easy task. So that pretty much fucking shows that this guy has a crazy resume already. Anthony Hernandez, his style kind of relies on brawling with you in the pocket. And he tries to get you up against the cage. And once he can get you up against the cage, he will take you down. Just relentless pressure, kind of like a grinding type style. I think Anthony Hernandez is a really tough matchup for a lot of guys in the top 15, so don't be surprised if we see Fluffy in the rankings anytime soon. The third prospect at middleweight, guys, his name is Joe Pyfer. Now, I'm not going to lie with you guys. I really do think Joe Pyfer has that Dana White privilege because he just got a main event against Jack Hermanson, and he's only had like 3 fights in the UFC. So, to me, that's fucking outrageous. But, you know, Dana White privilege goes a long way. But pretty much, on a serious note, Joe Pyfer is actually a really good fighter. You know, he has really good boxing combinations. He has a lot of power in his hands. He's knocked out a lot of people. Has a really solid ground game, you know what I mean? Has a really good wrestling background. He's actually out-wrestled a lot of UFC fighters in grappling competitions and that, so he's pretty fucking good, man. You know, he's really well-rounded everywhere. There's not much to say about Joe Pyfer. He does have submissions in his back pocket, but he likes to knock people out, has really crispy hands. Like I said, you know, he would rather stand and bang, but yeah, I would not be surprised if we see Joe Pyfer ranked anytime soon, but like Dana White said, John Yon Park, guys. Now, John Yon Park is a Korean dude, okay? Nothing crazy about that, but he has, pardon me, lad. He has a granite chin, bro. This guy has a granite chin, alright? Pretty much, if John Yon Park can take your shots, if he can eat your shots, he's going to walk you down, take you straight down, absolutely out-wrestle you, and submit you with a rear naked choke, right? He is fucking crazy, bro. I don't know. This guy gets hit with crazy bombs, and he just walks forward like the Terminator and takes you down and submits you. He's actually low-key kind of scary, so John Yon Park, I can see him being top 15 in the future. There's just, I could see him smoking Bo Nickel. There's no doubt around it. So, the last prospect at 185, guys, his name is Kyle Barajo. Now, Kyle Barajo, I think he's like 5-0 or 4-0 in the UFC. He doesn't really have too many finishes. He's pretty boring. He usually goes to a decision, but he's a very dominant fighter, all right? You know, he's a very dominant grappler, really high-level grappler, and his striking is, you know, getting a lot better, but he's really fucking boring, so he will be on the bottom of the list at the prospects, but he's a top 15 fighter, no doubt. Guys, I know what you're all thinking. Bro, where's Bo Nickel, bro? Ikram Aliskar? How could you forget these guys, bro? I got them right here, all right? It's not... Bro, I can't believe, you know, middleweights all of a sudden become the best division in the UFC, all right? I would never forget these guys, but we're going to start off with Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel's definitely going to be in the top 15 in the future. Trajan Gore actually was going to smoke him, but he had to pull out by CGI. You can't tell me otherwise, but... yeah, I think Bo Nickel's a really good fighter, you know. He actually just got a knockout in his last fight, so he's really improving. Not much to say about Bo Nickel. We move on to Ikram Aliskerov. Now, this guy's a fucking murderer, bro. I could see this guy easily being in the top 5. Elite wrestling, crazy stand-up, just knocked out Phil Hawes, Warley Alves. Pretty easy guys to knock out, to be real with you, but he is dangerous, guys. And we're going to move on to Shara Bullet Magomedov. Now, this guy has crazy stand-up. He's a ninja. No takedown defense at all, which is kind of worrying, but I do think all 3 of these guys will be in the rankings in the future, guys. Believe me when I say this. Honestly, guys, I did not know middleweight was going to become one of the most stacked divisions in a year. But we move on to the 170-pound division, the welterweight division. We're going to start off with my boy, Bryan Battle. Now, people have been telling me that, you know, you can't put Bryan Battle on this list. You know, he's not a prospect. He's not this and that, bro. I'm putting Bryan Battle on the list, all right? This guy is 11-2. He's 5-1 in the UFC. Maybe too many fights to be a prospect, but I do not care. He's a really well-rounded fighter, has great stand-up, you know, really nasty body kicks, teeps, just super accurate. You know, he's kind of like a volume puncher, super rangy on the feet. If he can fight at his own distance, he's going to piece you up. And he submitted a couple people in the UFC already, you know what I mean? He has that ability to find submissions wherever the fight goes, and his only loss is being to Renat Fakhretdinov. No shame in losing to Renat, bro. That's all I'm going to say. So, Bryan Battle, one of my favorite prospects at 170, guys. The next guy that we're going to be talking about at 170 is Colson Harris. Now, Colson Harris, he's a little bit old for welterweight. He's 36 years old, but he is 19-5. One loss in the UFC, only being to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Other than that, he is 4-0 in the UFC. He's a fun fighter to watch, man. This guy's a slugger. You know, he scraps in the pocket. He does leave his chin up pretty high at times, you know, risking for him to get KO'd, but like I said, man, he's a really fun fighter to watch. His best attribute, in my opinion, is his ability to be able to find, you know, submissions out of random scrambles, you know, anaconda chokes, dash chokes. And he submitted Habib's teammate over at Brave FC, giving his undefeated record a loss, which is very, very, you know, really good in my opinion. Yeah, Colson Harris is one of my favorite fighters, in my honest opinion. I think he's the only fighter from Guyana, so shout out to my boy Colson, man. You're going to make the list. The next fighter, guys, will be Michael Morales. Now, Michael Morales is, along with Chito Vera, another fighter from Ecuador. Not too many Ecuadorian fighters, but this guy is undefeated in the welterweight division, 16-0, has a freakishly long reach at 79 inches, which is wild at welterweight. He's currently 4-0 in the UFC as of right now. He's passed every test he's faced in the octagon. You know, the tough veterans, you know, guys like Jake Matthews, Max Griffin, and yeah. Michael Morales, you know, he's a very raw fighter, still has a lot of room to improve. You know, I think he's only 24, but does have a lot of hands, you know, a lot of power in his hands, pardon me, and yeah, he's got like a judo background. He's definitely legit, so I think he will be in the top 15 by the end of next year. The last prospect at welterweight, guys, is a guy called Mike Malott. Okay, now he's a Canadian soy boy, but on a serious note, you know, he's 10-1-1, a pretty good fighter, 3 UFC fights, 3 finishes, not against the best competition, but he will be fighting Neil Magny. He's a great grappler, you know what I mean, and he has good hands, so we move on into the lightweight division, guys. The first person who will be on this list is Elvis Brenner. Now, Elvis Brenner is a Shute box Chad. This guy actually trains with Charles Oliveira, and he is a really tough guy, man. We learned this in his second fight with Guram Kutateladze. Now, if you know, you know. Everybody was hyping Guram Kutateladze to be like a top 5 fighter, you know, a future champion. I honestly remember when, you know, the hardcore fans were saying Guram was championship material. Elvis Brenner took a beating from Guram Kutateladze and he finished him in the 3rd round, possibly being one of the biggest, you know, best upsets of 2023. Recently just got a KO against some random dude. You know, some random dude who was pretty good. I just forgot his name. But yeah, right now he's 3-0 in the octagon. He's a dangerous motherfucker. I really do think, you know what I mean, he's going to be able to fight guys in the top 15 and probably have success. You know, this guy's super tough and just relentless pressure. The next fighter at lightweight, guys, is Mateusz Rebecki. Mateusz Rebecki is 19-1. You know, I think he's a small guy for the division, probably like 5'7", 5'8", but he's a short, stocky motherfucker, bro. This guy packs heat, has really good stand-up, you know, pretty explosive guy, but his attributes, or his best attributes, are his ground game. He's able to find submissions off his back pretty well. Recently just submitted Roosevelt Roberts in the 1st round, and before that, he got a 2nd round finish. So he's got 2 finishes in the UFC, 3 UFC fights, pretty in the top 15 in the future. Nurullo Aliyev. Now, guys, I don't really know too much about Nurullo Aliyev, to be honest with you. I think he's had 1 fight in the UFC, and he had a pretty dominant fight against Rafael Alves. I believe he scored some 30-27s, but apparently he bit Rafael Alves, which is some crazy shit. Bruh. But yeah, apparently, you know, he's from Tajikistan. He's a really good grappler, you know, really dominant good grappler, you know, kind of like all the other Russians. But yeah, let's see what the future holds for Nurullo. The last prospect, guys, in the 155-pound division. I was very hesitant to put this guy on the list. I don't know if he deserves to be here, but we're going to chuck Manuel Torres on the list, all right? Now, this guy, 2 first-round finishes, 2 knockouts, man. This guy is an absolute beast. I just couldn't not put him on the list. So yeah, I'm very worried about him, you know, as in I think he's going to get exposed pretty soon, you know what I mean? I feel like he's a one-round wonder, you know, he's kind of like a world champion in the 1st round, and then, you know, he has no skill set in the 2nd round, but we'll see what it takes, but he definitely deserves to be on the list. We move on into the featherweight division, guys. I was actually going to chuck on William Gomez, who is 3-0 in the UFC. He's a French guy, but who gives a fuck about French people, man? We're going to move on. The first fighter on the list is Diego Lopez. Now, Diego Lopez, nobody knew who this guy was at the start of the year. Gets a call up on short notice to fight Movsar Evloev at UFC 288. Pretty much, you know, fought a top 10 guy in his debut, which is unheard of most of the time, and it was a fucking good performance he had. He really brought it to Movsar Evloev. You know, I think it was 2-1, you know, in round score to Evloev, but still, to have a great performance against a ranked guy, you know, it means a lot. So, Diego Lopez, after that loss, he's gone on a 2-fight winning streak. He beat Gavin Tucker by triangle choke and Pat Sabatini by punches. I can see Diego Lopez being a staple in the top 10 here. Really solid jiu-jitsu game and has a lot of power in his hands. But we move on to the next guy, Joe Anderson Brito. Now, Joe Anderson Brito, coming off a 2nd round submission win against Jonathan Pierce, he is now on a 4-fight winning streak, I believe. I took notice of Joe Anderson Brito when he knocked out Andre Fili in the 1st round, which is a tough thing to do on his debut as well. Super impressive. Yeah, both these dudes, Brito and Lopez, fought each other on the Dana White Contender Series a couple years ago. I think the fight ended early. I think it was like a no contest or some bullshit like that. But both these guys are kind of the same fighter, right? You know, they both pack huge power in their hands, can knock dudes out, and they have an excellent jiu-jitsu game. So I really like both these guys. And the last guy that we will be looking at the featherweight division, guys, a prospect who I really like, is Melquizael Costa. Now, Melquizael Costa, you know, he fought his UFC debut against Thiago Moises. No easy task, got submitted in that fight, but came back and put on a beautiful display of striking against Austin Lingo. Pieced that boy the fuck up. Had an amazing striking performance. He looked like a wizard on the feet, bro. And he's actually fighting this weekend against Steve Garcia, so I'm really excited to see this dude fight. I wanted to chuck him on the list. We move on into the bantamweight division, guys. We have a couple people here that I'm going to get to, but we're going to start off with Damon Blackshear. Now, Damon Blackshear, when he got a twisted submission, Damon Blackshear got the third and only twisted submission in UFC history this year, which automatically puts him on this list. Now, he just lost to Mario Batista, who was also on this list, as you can see, but that is no shame in losing to a guy like Batista. Damon Blackshear has a nasty ground game to get a twisted submission, has really lethal stand-up, you know what I mean? Just, you know, really coming into his own. He does have 6 losses, but he is a prospect to look out for. The Basharat brothers. Alright, guys, we're going to talk about the Basharat brothers. Both these dudes are undefeated, alright? They both fight at bantamweight. They're both killers. Both, you know, are primarily boxers, in my opinion. You know, they throw a lot of hands, you know, a lot of body combinations, a lot of boxing combinations, but they do have some great wrestling and some great jiu-jitsu. Just all around, you know, super well-rounded fighters. You know, a lot of these people on the prospect list, you know, they're super well-rounded, and that's pretty much what the Basharat brothers are. So I don't think they're going to lose for a while, but some great prospects. The next guy we have to look out for in the 135-pound division, guys, is Kyler Phillips. Now, this guy's nickname is the Matrix, and, you know, there's a reason why. This guy fights like a fucking ninja, bro. He throws, you know, spinning kicks, like does flips in the octagon. He does a bunch of crazy shit, dude. You know, if you really want to, go look up Kyler Phillips highlights. He is an assassin. But yeah, this guy, you know, although he's not ranked, he has a win against Song Yadong, which is an absolutely crazy win to have, you know what I mean? Song Yadong is basically a top 5 bantamweight fighter, and he pretty much schooled on Song Yadong. So that shows how good Kyler Phillips is, really coming into his own. He actually just popped for Osterine, which is pretty interesting. So I really want to see how he fights off the Osterine. But yeah. And the last prospect at 135, guys, is Mario Batista. Now, Mario Batista actually got finished by Corey Sandhagen in the first round, you know, pretty early into his UFC career. But as of right now, he's on a 5-fight winning streak against, you know, pretty good guys, and he's really coming into his own. Batista, you know, he's got some pretty good striking, very technical on the feet. You know, he likes to keep everything tight, pause. But, you know, on a serious note, he has a really good skill set, particularly when it comes to the ground. You know, he can wrestle pretty well, but he's excellent in scrambles, you know what I mean? Being able to secure positions in MMA fights. And pretty much if he can secure a position on you where he's able to submit you, he's most likely going to submit you. So, guys, Mario Batista will be making the list. He definitely should be ranked, to be honest with you, with 5 wins in a row. But we're going to let it slide, man. We're going to let it slide. But you already know my boy Batista will be ranked. We move on into the last division, guys. We are at the flyweight division. Now, everybody knows who the first person is I'm going to discuss. Tatsuro Taira. Tatsuro Taira might be one of the biggest prospects in the UFC today, all right? Everybody talks about this guy. You know, bro, this is who you should be looking. Bro, this is the guy, man. This is the guy. So I like Tatsuro Taira. I think he's a really good prospect. I think he's a great fighter, but he does have some holes in his game. Now, I will say that this guy has elite grappling. You know, he's got really good offensive wrestling, you know, really good takedown defense, but his jiu-jitsu is elite, okay? He can find submissions off his back. He is really slick, all right? Blood is slick. So there's a reason why he's undefeated, but like I said, he definitely has some collapse stand-up, so he's really going to have to work on that. But Tatsuro Taira could be, you know, a future champion if it really mattered, you know what I mean? Alessandro Costa, guys, will be the next person we're going to talk about now. Guys, I really feel like people don't give this man his flowers he deserves, all right? This guy is a savage. Took the Steve Erceg fight on short notice. We all know Steve Erceg is a beast. And pretty much, you know, he made it a really competitive fight. You know, Alessandro Costa is the same guy who took on a ranked opponent in Amir Albazi on short notice, pretty much in his UFC debut. Now, he lost the fight, but if you're looking good against a ranked opponent in your UFC debut, that obviously means you're a very Alessandro Costa, you know what I mean, he's a really good fighter at flyweight. He has vicious leg kicks. You know, he holds a relentless pace. You know, he's a very quick fighter, explosive fighter, and I'm sure he's going to have a great future. You know, when I saw him fight Steve Erceg, I knew both those guys were going to be ranked, so it's another future ranked opponent, bro. The last prospect on this list, guys, is going to be my Kazakhstan boy, Asu Almabayev. Now, Asu Almabayev has only had 1 fight in the UFC, but he had a second round rear naked choke submission win against Ode Osborne, who's, you know, kind of 50-50 at this point. But yeah, I can't say too much about Almobayev, you know, good stand-up and, you know, some good grappling. That's probably about. I think definitely in the near future, you know what I mean, there's going to be a lot of Kazakhstan fighters who, you know, crush the rankings, including Asu Chad Almobayev. But guys, that is my tier list for UFC in the year of 2023. Guys, let me know if I missed any prospects. Let me know if you know any prospects that I didn't get down. Make sure to let me know down in the comments below. Guys, if you made it to this end of the video, as it really helps spread the algorithm and it helps me out, man. And why not subscribe if you haven't already, man? I'm going to be uploading a bunch of bangers later this week, and I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care. Peace.